The other day I opened the other arm here on the cow sprayer and look what happened. They ended up breaking that one off as well. That's not the one that I repaired a couple videos ago. That's the one that was not broken, and now it is. But we'll deal with that in a second. First I gotta get these cows moved. I don't know if you can tell, they're ready. Okay, ladies. Come on, girls, time to go. Okay, that's done, and I look down here where this thing broke. It broke in the exact same place that the other one did, right at where the spring makes that 90-degree turn. So I think what I'm gonna do is make some new pieces to bolt in here that'll hold those arms. And then hopefully this will not be a recurring issue that I have to deal with again. Flies are getting worse every day, so I think it really needs to be a priority to get this thing up and running and functional as soon as possible. So that's what we're doing today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. I've had these guys locked up in the little corral here while the cattle were in the back pasture because they've been walking through the little field here where the bulls are now to get up into the shade. Now that the cattle are in the middle pasture, they don't need to walk through here anymore, so I decided to give the boys some grass. Honestly, it's a little bit easier to just keep them in here until breeding season in about 10 more days, but I would rather put them on the better feed and just kind of pump them up as much as we can prior to breeding season, because even though we are on small acreage, bulls will lose weight, especially during that first month, because they're spending all their time running around chasing cows. They're not just sitting out there eating. So the idea is to put a little bit of weight, a little bit of body condition on them prior to breeding season, so when they get called up to the big leagues, they're ready to go. I better close this gate and make sure that this Energizer is still on, which it is. I didn't bring a tester down here, but I mean, I can clearly see that the wire's not touching anything, so it ought to be hitting good. That ought to be better. And while I'm working on making new mounts for those arms, I've got a little side project going as well, and that is I'm going to add this venturi injector to the cow sprayer. If you don't know what a venturi injector is, basically what it does is on this T, it creates a vacuum that will be able to pull up the soap or permethrin, whatever I want to spray in the tank, and it'll draw that up into the tank without me having to climb up there and do it. I know it doesn't really make a lot of sense right now, but hopefully once we get it set up and installed, it will. Took me a minute to get that thread to catch right. You got to be careful, you know, with plastic, because if you force it, it will strip. So basically the way that this works, the hose would hook in down here, the water comes up. When this valve is closed, it forces everything to go this way, which goes through the venturi. You create your vacuum right here, so this is where you would attach your pickup hose to go down into the soap or permethrin. Now the reason that I put a valve here is because if I tried to fill the whole tank through the venturi, it would take forever, because this is pretty small. It necks it down to like, I don't know, I mean like this much. It's nothing. So once you get enough chemical or material in the tank, you can then open this valve and then it'll fill the rest of the tank a lot faster. I've just got everything mocked up here, and nothing's tight, but I just wanted to make sure I had the right fittings to make all of this work. And it looks like I do. So I think I'll go ahead and pre-assemble as much of this as makes sense to do here at the shop. And then the rest of it we'll just assemble on the cow sprayer where it sits. Next step is to make some new arm holders that are hopefully not gonna break as easily as that spring has been breaking. And what I'm gonna use here is some 12 gauge sheet metal. It'll basically be a T shape, like a capital T. The vertical part of the T will have the hole here that screws into the switch, and then the horizontal part of the T is gonna bend up and around that spring, and then it'll all be held together with a hose clamp. Hopefully that is gonna be strong enough, so that's what we're gonna try. I don't know. What do you think about there? Maybe we better clamp. Haven't used a C-clamp in a while. I don't want you guys to start worrying about me or anything. So we have our T, and when I hold this piece up to it, still a little bit too wide here, which is fine. I'd rather be too wide than too narrow. I need to clean this up with the grinder a little bit, and then we need to make our hole. I've got it marked there. So yeah, I'll probably go ahead and round these corners while I'm at it and clean it up. Then we can bend the wings on the T and it should be ready to go. Getting in the realm now. Ooh, that's hot. Looks about right. Well, as rusty and corroded as everything else is on the cow sprayer, I figure I better paint these. I don't know if it's the soap that does that or just constantly being sprayed with water, but either way, corrosion is an issue over there. So let me slap some paint on these, and then while they're drying, hopefully we can hook up the venturi setup, and by the time we're done with that, I'm sure these won't be completely dry, but dry enough to put on. Yes. Well, that should do it. I hope this effort is not all for nothing. You know, I'm looking at this and it's like, I hope that it creates enough vacuum to pick up the soap. I hope that it creates enough lift to get it in the tank. There's really no way to know any of this until we just try it. So I think that's the next step. Well, how about it? It works. I hope you guys were able to see that, but you could just watch the soap slowly draw up that tube. I have no idea how long it's gonna take to empty this jug, but you know, we didn't have to climb up there and it's filling. Now I can open this valve. I don't know if you guys were able to see that, but the suction stops as soon as you do that, and we're not getting anything blowing back in there, which is also good. But it should start filling a lot faster. I guess the only downside to doing things this way is that it does make a lot of bubbles, so you know, it just kind of is what it is. It's not really gonna hurt anything. It just might get a little bit messy. I think that's full enough. Whew. Well, I guess that took care of the bubbles. You know, I'm thinking about this and what I could do to solve the bubble issue, because you can see we've got some suds up there. On the inside of that bulkhead fitting, I think all I need to do is put a hose barb and a hose that goes down to the bottom of the tank. I think what I could do is I could put like 5 gallons of water in the tank first so that that fill hose is submerged, and at that point I could open up the venturi injector, which would then put the soap in coming from underwater, so you don't have that water beating down on top of it, aerating everything and mixing it up that way, making the big bubbles like it's doing. I think that would work better. It would at least be worth a try. So you can see it did not leave too much soap behind. If I had that bottle up flat, I think it would have got it all or almost all of it. But yeah, I can just dump that into the next bottle before I fill it again. So I think that's gonna work great. I was ready for it that time. That first modification went so well. Just makes me hope that this one goes about the same. Because the real question is just if these fit or not. Well, there it is in all its glory. We'll see how long these arms stay on there. I'm not real convinced that this is the way to go. I don't really like the way the hose clamps grip those arms, but you know, we'll see. They may work just fine. And as I've been standing here sort of buttoning everything up here, I've noticed that my suction hose here is dripping, and I think it might be siphoning out of the tank because it should not still be dripping right now. So the easiest solution, I guess, is to fold that hose up and get it above the water level up there, and then it should stop. Not even sure how it's possible because the water level is not higher than this elbow, so it shouldn't be able to siphon. I'm not really sure what's going on here. It's certainly dripping though. We'll put it, stick it right back in the hole there. Yeah, there's definitely some sort of siphoning going on here somewhere, because I can see the liquid here in the hose is slowly rising. It's really slow, but you can observe it. So I think when it gets up like to water level here, it'll stop, but for whatever reason, you know, maybe there's pressure in the tank or something from the bubbles perhaps, and maybe that's what's causing it. Well, if it does go all the way to the end, then it'll just dump back into the tank now. What I'll need to do is get a little ball valve to put on the end of that, and I might even want to make that longer so I could just set the jug down here on the sprayer and then it wouldn't like be sitting on an angle. There's a little bit of fine tuning left here, but all in all, this has been pretty successful. I was not sure that that little venturi would work or that it would be fast enough. You know, I started thinking, as small as everything is, that the tank would fill up before it was able to pull enough soap up in there, but that did not end up being the case. These two upgrades really address my main issues with the sprayer, the things I didn't like about it, but There are a couple more little things that I might like to do. One being, I might go ahead and just cut these arms off, because there's really no need to have them like this. The reason that these are so long is so that you can scoot the trip arms back more, and the reason that you would want to do that is because if the cattle like trip the sprayer back here, then it would spray fly spray on their face. Some people might elect to do that. Me personally, I don't think I like that, because I feel like if you set it up to spray them right in the face, it's going to be 10 times harder to get them to walk through that thing. Or what they'll start doing is just running through it because they don't want to get sprayed in the face. So I try to set those arms where it sprays them right behind the ear and then along their whole body behind that. And because I know I'm never going to scoot those all the way back, it seems silly to leave them, because these really present quite a hazard, honestly. You've just got this piece of square tubing sticking out into no man's land. You know, if the cattle are crowded around this thing or whatever, as they often are, it would be pretty easy for this to poke somebody or stab somebody, or, you know, you never know what can happen. As much as I would love to turn this thing on because the flies are getting so bad, I think I'm gonna leave it off for another day, because after I put the second arm out like how they are now, I'm not sure how long it was like that before they broke one off. So I want them to get used to walking through with 2 arms rubbing on either side of them, and then I'd say by the end of tomorrow or maybe the day after, we'll go ahead and click this thing on and hopefully start killing some of these flies. Well, I guess this is as good a place to call it as any. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.